they wrote down that they needed a variance because the building area was not 5,000 square feet. They thought it was in each zone, and they do not, it's on the entire lot, so they will not need that variance. The project complies with zoning. However, on section G of the code, you have to submit a map that shows that you can get one parking spot for every 1,000 square feet. It's just a separate map that's needed. You're not gonna build it, but you have to show that you're able to do it in the case that the self-storage doesn't work out for you.
Thanks, Mike. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike mentioned what the project was about, general comments for referrals to the state of New York State DEC, Department of Transportation, DEP, Putnam County Highway and Facilities, Department of Health for Putnam County, Putnam County Department of Planning, GML 239M, Town of Carmel Highway Department, Town of Carmel ECB, Mahopac Fire Department. Looks like they'll need permits from the state for stormwater and wetlands, a work permit and possibly a traffic study, New York City DEP for stormwater and possibly subsurface treatment, Putnam County Highway work permit, Putnam County DOH well and septic, ECB wetlands permit. The traffic study provided will need to be reviewed and approved by the New York State DOT and Putnam County. Stormwater pollution prevention plan has been provided. It is under review. An overall site plan should be provided for the project. The applicant will be required to provide a stormwater maintenance agreement and maintenance guarantee. Any public improvements, there'll be the need for performance bond and associated engineering fees. I have a whole bunch of detailed comments. I can go through them if you'd like me to, Mr. Chairman, but I think we can provide this to the board. It has to do with vehicle movement, right-of-ways, details on well and septic, layout and landscape plans, grading utility plans, erosion sediment control. All the plans had some comments on them that just need to be addressed. The applicant has done them in the past. I just wanted to let you know that if you want me to, I can go through them. You let me know.
Thank you, Rich. Pat, I know you had many comments also.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this is a fairly significant development. As Michael indicated, they are proposing to merge two parcels. Those parcels are in separate zoning districts. The front parcel next to the mobile station is in the C commercial zone. The back portion, the majority of the property is in the commercial business park zone. So the applicant's proposing to merge those properties into a single parcel, which is a logical thing to do for a single development. My recommendation would be that they also modify the zoning of the property to reflect a single zone. The CPB zone would be the preferred zone. Again, it's just a logical thing to clean up. If you're a single parcel, you don't want to have a zoning district line segmenting a portion of the property. So if they're going through the trouble of the merger, the rezoning is a logical thing to do. There are two components of this project. So the front portion of the project, they will build a retail building where they will sell the elements associated with the storage facility. And then there are 9 buildings in the back of the site, large buildings and smaller buildings, significant development, to address this self-storage facility. So a few things with respect to the use. We have to have a much better understanding of how the self-storage facility is going to operate. Are these individual residents bringing their Christmas decorations here? Are these commercial operations bringing their materials here? How often are trips generated? There was a traffic study that was generated for this. This use is subject to an additional set of standards in our code for industrial uses and self-storage uses. It appears that they are generally consistent with most of those standards, but there are some clarifications that we'll need from you moving forward with respect to that. One of the issues with respect to this application is that it is accessed on 2 locations around perhaps the worst intersection of the town, that being the Baldwin Place Route 6 intersection. It's a poorly the geometry of that intersection is poor. There are multiple movements on that intersection, and they're proposing 2 driveways that are existing driveways now, and to reuse them for this new facility. Those existing driveways may be suitable for the existing operations, but perhaps not for this. Both of those roads are the state's roads, so as Michael and Rich indicated, DOT would have to have significant input to this, but the applicant's own traffic consultant suggested moving the driveway that they proposed on their plan. So we didn't even get a chance to ask you to do that. Your own guy asked you to do that. So what another recommendation, Mr. Chairman, would be to bring in our own traffic consultant to help us review this. The other element with respect to this is these new buildings are going to the top of the hill behind those farm buildings, which are basically open fields today. So there's not a visual issue related to that now, because it's the top, it's sort of empty and there's nothing there. Once you put buildings on top of that, there's nothing around it necessarily. There's wooded areas down below, but not up top. So the notion of screening, buffering, landscaping is something we should look at very carefully. One of the things we'd ask you to do is provide renderings from different viewpoints so we can get a better understanding of the building. They provided a couple of renderings to give us some sense of the buildings. The front building looks great, similar to the buildings we've done further down Route 6. The back buildings are storage buildings, so while what we saw didn't look terrible, sometimes they can be terrible, so we want to be very careful with that. Your role is as the architectural board in this particular application, so you must look at these carefully. So again, I'd recommend we retain our architectural consultant to look at this as well. And finally, seekers, a significant issue. The applicant submitted simply a short environmental assessment form. At a very minimum, we need a full environmental assessment form, and I've pointed out that doing just a brief analysis, there are a number of environmental thresholds that this site trips. Wetlands, steep slopes, wetland buffers, there's a core forest on the property and so forth. So a full environmental assessment's necessary for that. So to that end, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to be long-winded, designate your intent to be lead agency tonight, and we can start that process.
Pat, thank you. Before I turn it over to the board, I'm fairly familiar with the projects we've met, but the board has not, so maybe you can give us an overview of the entire project.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Nicholas Ward Willis with Keenan Bean, counsel for the applicant Diamond Point Development. We're joined tonight by our applicant's representative, Jason Sommer, who will answer some of Mr. Cleary's questions and comments about the operations and give you a sense of how this facility would operate. I'm also joined by Rich Williams from Insight Engineering, who will provide the overview. Staff has provided a good set of comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Rich just to start us off tonight.
One of the things I'd like you to mention, and answer also, and Pat mentioned it, but somewhere along your presentation, please answer why 9 buildings as compared, to me, if you're building 9 buildings compared 1, 2, or 3, it's much more expensive. So I'm just kind of curious about that when you do your, it might be better, it might be worse, but I'm just curious.
Sure, and good evening, Rich Williams, Insight Engineering. I'm going to go first, but when I turn it over to Jason, he's going to be able to talk to you about the market demand studies, the need for the building layouts, configuration of the buildings, different products they offer, and answer some of those questions.
Great.
So if you want to just bear with me, I'll walk the board through the site first. I think we're all familiar with this property. I know I was since I was a kid. It's the old Mahopac farm property. It's a 30.53 acre site. As you heard in the opening remarks, there's 2 pieces of property. There's a smaller property down in front, which is 0.67 acres in the C zone. That's where if we drive by, we see the firewood operation taking place. The rest of the site, which is 29.86 acres, is in the C/BP zone, and our intent is to merge the properties. As far as environmental constraints, we do have steep slopes on the property. If you're aware, along Baldwin Place Road, we have a lot of forest. Just looking at the map I brought with me, you have Baldwin Place Road wrapping the property. Here, you have US Route 6 running along the bottom of the property.
Would you point to the mobile station, please? Okay.
And the mobile station is down on the corner. We are maintaining our existing site entrances off of Route 6 and Baldwin Place Road. We did receive the traffic consultant's memo the day of the submission, so we did not have time to react to their recommendations. We agree with them regarding the entrance on Baldwin Place Road and plan on shifting that in accordance with their recommendations. But what the traffic consultant essentially said was, you know, this project is going to have a minimum increase in trip generation based on existing traffic volumes. They also did recognize and will be performing a full traffic impact study and intersection analysis. We recognize the sensitivity of this intersection. It's why we got them on board at the onset, because we want to make sure we're handling it responsibly and we don't, you know, start talking about site plans and things with you without their input and get too far ahead of ourselves. We do have multiple buildings throughout the property. We envision this site being constructed in 2 phases. If you look at the rendering I've brought with me, you can see some darker buildings in darker brown here and some lighter tan buildings in the back of the property. That denotes our phase 1 and our phase 2. Relative to phase 1, we're seeking to construct 137,600 square feet of storage space. As I walk up the hill, we have a combination of bi-level, climate-controlled, interior unit storage facilities, and that's these 2 larger buildings, there and there. And then we have a series of smaller buildings, which you see in dark brown, which are drive-up storage units. I can give you specific breakdowns, but in general, the building on page left, the larger building on page left is a total of 52,000 square feet. That's total area, not footprint. It's a bi-level building, so it's a 26,000 square foot footprint. The larger building on page right in dark brown is 67,600 square feet with a footprint of 33,800. And the smaller buildings range in size from 4,200 square feet to 2,800 square feet. In phase two, we do have two buildings. Each one is 60,000 square feet footprint. So it's a bi-level building, so each building is a total of 120,000 square feet for a phase two total of 240,000 square feet. Based on the parking, we're required to have 44 spaces. We've located 58 throughout the site. We're required to have 20 loading spaces. We've provided 30 throughout the site. We did provide a preliminary stormwater pollution prevention plan. One of the things that we're also focused on, in addition to traffic, is, the town engineer pointed it out, and from knowing the road, I'm keenly aware at the mobile on Baldwin Place Road, there's an existing flooding problem. If you drive down Baldwin Place Road during heavy rainstorms or, during December when you have snow melts, there's often, puddles of water in the road. We were sensitive to that with our stormwater design. We did testing on the property already just to understand the suitability of the soils for stormwater, as well as septic, because there isn't sewer here. This will be treated by an on-site septic for the office building. But we were able to find a lot of areas where we could infiltrate stormwater, and that's our intent. So the dark green circles and geometric shapes on the plan, those are various stormwater management practices. For the most part, there'll be pre-treatment basins and infiltration basins. The only one that won't be is in front of the office building along Route 6. We designed that to be a bioretention filter. We intentionally, when we were looking at the office building, we're trying to be sensitive to the streetscape along Route 6. We're going to add a stone wall along that streetscape. We're going to add some landscaping behind the wall. We sited the parking lot behind the building to help create a green frontage. And that's why we're going to do a bioretention filter there, because it's a practice that's shallow. It's not deep. So it's not your 3 to 4 foot deep basin. It's usually 2 to 3 feet deep, gentler side slopes, and more heavily landscaped. So we think we can use that more aesthetically to help enhance that frontage and create a more green frontage. Also of note, a lot of the existing development down in front where the wood, the firewood is being sold, is actually in a state and town wetland buffer. A lot of that is going to be reclaimed. We have a mitigation area on the plan where we're going to try and bring a lot of that buffer back, because we have a smaller need for that space based on just the office use. As I mentioned, it's on-site septic for wastewater. We'll drill a private well for water supply. And the last thing on water I want to mention is we are going to have underground fire storage tanks for those bi-level buildings, as they will need to be sprinklered. So we'll be providing storage for that water as well as a fire pump. I'm just going to thumb through. I'll turn over the microphone to Jason, but what I'll do really quick is I'll just flip through the elevations for you. And yeah, if you want to help over there. Just to give you a sense, we did supply as part of our package.
Rich, where are you putting the septic areas? They were not shown on the drawings.
Because it's an office for only one employee, 2 employees, it's very small. It's going to be right here in between the first drive-up storage building and the office. We did do testing again, just to test and make sure that we believe we can get a septic area there, and we can.
There are no public restrooms in the storage buildings, right?
We're going through that now. Just based on the size, code may require that we have a restroom in one of the buildings, and if we do, we'll likely bring it to the same system, but tonight I don't have an answer for you.
Still use the one septic.
If we can and it makes sense, if it's so far away where it doesn't, I may put in another small septic. So I don't know the answer to that tonight.
Has that area been tested?
We've tested basically across the property. As you can imagine, with the pond and the wetlands down here, the only place we really found unsuitable soils was down in front when you're basically at the same elevation. There is a DEP delineated water course that crosses along the front of our property on Route 6 that enters into a culvert. So that's a lot of what's driving the design here with respect to impervious surface setbacks and being able to reclaim a lot of that wetland buffer area here.
I think the code allows for just a bathroom in the in the office building, because anything else won't be monitored. You wouldn't know if it was running for a week or a month or a year, you know, unless somebody goes in there and checks it every day or whenever they go in, so.
I don't know the answer tonight, but we're questioning that internally right now, so I hope that's the answer. We did provide elevations, if we want to flip, actually, I'll move to you, as well as two pictures of what the site is envisioned to look like. This is the view from Route 6. So you can see our office building. You can see one of the storage buildings in the back. This is approximately where the existing barns are located. The stone wall in front with the landscaping. And then we have the green space in front. If we want to flip to the back.
I'm gonna miss the wood pile.
Yep, and this is the view from Baldwin Place Road. We are intending to keep the stone pillars. We're going to dress them up a little bit, but try and match the stone that's there. We don't want to totally lose the feel and the streetscape that's been there. It's familiar to all of us. But we do want to clean it up. I mean, those pillars need some repair. We want to just dress up the stone walls, address some of the landscape coming in.
Moving that driveway up the road now.
Correct.
You taking the pillars with you?
I don't know. We may, just as part of matching the stone, we may want to do something different, but, you know, when you start changing stone types, you can start to change the feel of things.
Just claiming that you were going to reuse that.
Yeah.
That driveway
That's a
you're
good
not
point.
going to reuse.
Rich, Pat mentioned, I think Mike mentioned, and maybe Rich, we have met DOT on this exact intersection months ago. So they do have their eyes on this as one of the more dangerous or intersections in the town of Carmel. So you're going to have to really work with the DOT on this one.
Yeah, and if it were just DOT, I'd be happy, but Baldwin Place Road is a county road, so we actually have to marry
Yeah.
Putnam County Highways and Facilities with DOT and make all of this come together. So that's why we got Colliers engaged right at the onset, because we realized there's a little bit of a lift there, and, you know, we want to pay attention to it.
And the county is looking at that drainage issue. It taps into a town drainage issue down, drainage system down on Kennard. So there is a lot going on in this area.
One question about the trees on the left-hand side. Are those trees present now, or these will be added?
This is an interpretation of what the site's going to look like. There is an existing tree here now.
So I was trying to match up what I was seeing in that rendering with the site plan, and I may have made a mistake, but I counted in excess of 25 trees there, and I didn't see that number of trees on the site plan.
Right, so
This is the area
Yeah,
you're viewing right here. You're
Yeah.
up towards the
yeah.
You're going to need the microphone otherwise.
So what Jason just said is
Give us a second mic there, Anthony.
you're looking here, basically looking in. And in this rendering, the idea, it's not a true rendering, you know, match the, you know, landscape to match our plan yet. We just wanted to come in with a picture of what the buildings would generally look like, how they'd sit in the site, so.
So,
your comments
the
there.
reason I bring it up is because I do find the trees in the picture attractive. They'll border up against the road, assist with the sighting of these buildings in terms of what you see from the road. I would encourage you to adopt those trees for the site plan.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I can turn it over to Jason now, he'll just talk a little bit about the operation, because that was one of the comments.
Thank you, Planning Board, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Jason Summer. I originally am from Schenectady, New York, and grew up in Schenectady. I live in Atlanta now with my brother. We're don't live together, but our business, Diamond Point Development, we're the two partners in it. So you're talking to one of the principals of the business. This will be our 14th self-storage facility. We do them from Maine down to Georgia, so we've got some experience doing this. What we do is not maybe what you think of first when you think of self-storage. You think of orange doors or red doors, and you think of that's not what you're going to see here. This is going to be more of more of an upscale product. It's going to be mostly a climate control product. It's going to be a new cleaned up product, and that is what we do on all of our properties. So anyway, we think it's a good fit for this area. We do not think it's really going to compete with the existing storage here. We think it's going to be a better product, quite honestly. Excuse me. One of the things that was discussed when I met with staff and you, Mr. Chairman, a few months ago was the demand, trying to understand, do you need this here? And there's a study that I'll provide at our response to the comments, but there's 2.22 square feet of self-storage per capita in this market. The national average in equilibrium is between 8 and 9. So that would mean that there's 450,000, roughly 450,000 square feet of storage that is undersupplied in this area. So the demand is not being met, and that's part of the analysis we do when we do this. So as a business person and as someone who wants this to be a successful project, we think it's going to be very successful, and phasing it into 2 phases, helps us do that. Some other things about the property. The office hours we're usually about 9:30 to 6 p.m. So this is not an evening opened product. Now there'll be access to the storage up until usually 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're under the opinion that nothing good happens after 10 p.m.
7 days a week?
No, we don't open. Access 7 days a week, but the office will not be open Sunday.
And that retail store, will it only be related to your storage, tape, boxes? It's not going
Yes.
to be...
Nothing else. Tape, boxes, packing supplies, that sort of thing. That's about it. Traffic. We knew this is a traffic concern. We have gates at some of our properties where you cannot access the property without going through the gate, and we've monitored those gates, and we would see on our busiest day of a year, you would see 35 visits. Now compare that to a McDonald's, that might be 350 visits. So this is a very, very low traffic use. Because it's got quite a bit of storage, maybe it's a little more than that, and we're going to do a study on that. But as far as traffic, we think it's a very good use for this property. This will be professionally managed. It'll be managed with security, and it'll be managed with landscaping. This is not going to be a mom and pop shop. This is someone who's going to do it professionally. And again, we think this is a very low impact use for a very big property. So we think the actual drain on the city and the county and the infrastructure is minimal, and we think that actually fits the property very well and fits the community very well. Do you have any?
Question, yes, I do. You mentioned that it's upscale and it's air conditioned and all that. Is it going to be priced out of the market for people who want to use storage? I mean, to your point, there's a lot of storage around. What's the price comparison?
It's a great question. The storage you have here, if you drive up and down Route 6, is overpriced. So actually, I don't think so. We would be very happy to be getting those prices. It'll probably drive their prices down a bit because there'll be new storage in the area that people would rather store at than the old existing product. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just curious. As you said, you market it as being upscale, and it looks really nice in the renderings.
Yeah.
What is it going to cost for people to come and use the facility?
Usually, it's a good question. The climate controls more than the non-climate.
Yeah.
Usually, it depends on the supply and the demand, but most of the time it is. And again, it's all about bringing people in and getting new customers. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, just as I said, curious. And as you get further down the line, probably can give more detail.
Sure.
But
This
yeah,
is the
that's
beginning
fine.
of a process. You'll
Yeah.
probably see me quite a bit and
Okay.
ask any questions you want. Mr. Chairman asked before, I think it was you who asked that. Why 9 buildings?
Yeah.
Right.
Pat mentioned, and I reiterated.
All of these buildings are what we call bi-level buildings, so they're half under the grade of the soil. So you're not going to see any tall buildings here, and we do that because no one likes to see tall buildings here. First of all, second of all, we don't like to put elevators in the buildings, and when you're renting self-storage, you don't want to put your stuff in an elevator. It's an inconvenience to have to load up an elevator, take the elevator up, and then go to your unit. So everything you see here will be what we call ground level self-storage. So it's a better customer experience. Because of the grade of this property, it would be nearly impossible to do this with one big building. But as far as economics go, you're right, Mr. Chairman, it is less expensive for us to do one big building. So
So you mentioned you go from Maine to Georgia. Is there
Yes.
any other area in this area that you've done?
Schenectady, We've got one going up in Poughkeepsie, we've got one going up in Kingston, one going up in Danbury, but they're not in completed state. Schenectady, New York is done. I would say it's the closest. We have one in Maryland. It's not
Danbury
close.
may be closer than Schenectady.
Danbury's closer, but it's not up yet.
Yeah.
It's in process.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Your utilities will all be underground, your electrical services?
yes, yes.
Do you have flexibility on the architecture to adopt a more, I love the office building. How close could you get to that?
To Bob's
Yeah.
point, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but one of my notes here is that I believe you should talk to Rose next week, and I think we should engage with our architecture review consultant also, right? Because this is one of our gateways to our community, so to Bob's point, let's get you together early with the firm we use as our architectural consultant.
That would be better for us, too.
Did that answer your question?
Yep.
Yep, that'd be better for us.
Yeah,
And
we don't want
the
you-
answer is yes. We are, we want to accommodate the community. We're part of the community now. Once we put this up,
We're
we
off to
want
a
it to be
good
lived there.
start, so I think we'll capitalize on that.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we don't want you to go spend X amount of dollars design something. We said, whoa, that's not what we had in mind. So I'll make it, I made a note ready for Rose, but when you talk to Rose next week, ask her to get you that number.
Will do.
Procedurally, Mr. Chairman, you can designate your intent to serve as lead agency tonight.
Oh, I think, well, if there's no other questions, I think, well, I'll ask you, go ahead, Anthony.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to declare us as lead agency.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have 8, 10 page of comments. You'll get those from Rose, from the consultants. You'll get those from Rose when you speak. Those should be in the office Monday. No, tomorrow. Should be in the office tomorrow. Yeah. So you'll get all the comments. You'll get the architectural firm, and then we'll meet back when you're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Glencom Lake Cell Tower, Walton Drive, for a public hearing. As these gentlemen get set up, we've had this open for a public hearing in the past. The only thing I'm going to ask tonight is try not to be repetitive. We've read lots and lots of, we've read all your emails. We've listened to you speak a couple of weeks ago. I'm not saying you can't speak again, but we don't need to be repetitive. If you're going to speak, please sign in. There's a sign-in sheet at the podium. Let's try to limit ourselves to 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the maximum, and let's conduct ourselves professionally today. We got a big agenda tonight. Refrain from the clapping and the comments. With that being said, Mike?
Yeah, my comment's the same as last time. I wasn't here, but the variances from the zoning board were not granted, so that's the only comment I have.
And Rich, I know you had some comments.
Yeah, so I did speak with Mr. Gaudioso earlier this week with regarding the graphic representation of the vehicles. I thought that a crane would be needed in the future. I was mistaken. He said a man lift would be there for future maintenance. The only comment I would have to that is we should have a document that shows how that vehicle will move in there, how it's going to access onto the site. There was a lighting spill plan provided. My notes say that it wasn't. It was buried, well, it wasn't a separate lighting spill plan drawing. I normally expected that. It was on another drawing. Mr. Gaudioso pointed that out to me. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat?
No further comments on this, Mr. Chairman. This is on this evening for a public hearing.
Prior to me opening up, is there anything you want to mention, Mr. Gaudioso?
I'll just mention that we did receive the comments, as I mentioned to Rich. It is a man lift that would be used. It's roughly the base of the size of this SUV that we show on the plan, so we can certainly clarify that as well. It's not a crane, it would be a man lift in the future. The crane is for the construction, and that is also shown on the plans. In response to the comments at the last meeting and that we received since the last meeting, we did submit a letter from Mr. Wimmer that showed, just by way of example, 10 locations of towers, including 3, I believe, in the town of Carmel, including the one across the street, that are in close proximity to residences that are within, the surrounding area. We submitted a property valuation report from Lane Appraisals, and we submitted a preliminary drawing showing a second alternative on the property, which would be back towards the power lines, and we have that on this plan here. That location would meet the 280-foot setback. I think I had mentioned this earlier at the first meeting. The downside of this location is that it is in the wetland buffer, but we would be willing to proceed with the alternative location, which does meet the 280-foot setback, on the understanding that we would first also have to get approval from the property owner, and we would also have to have a positive recommendation for the wetland permit, so we can go and try and seek the wetland permit.
Thank you. Does anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this application tonight? Please, state your name and sign in, please, when you speak.
Good evening, Board. Rob Cavallaro, 49 Walton Drive, Mahopac, New York. I understand this is the final planning board public hearing for reference to the Glenacoma facility on Walton Drive. I'd like to take this time to respectfully respond to statements made at the last public hearing by Mr. Gaudioso and Mr. Vicente, if I may. At the last planning board meeting, Mr. Vicente stood up here and stated that he had just returned from a New York City meeting with the New York State Town Association. He stated that they are having problems in many communities getting people to buy and move in because they don't have wireless coverage, because they don't have broadband. The comments that he made at the last meeting are irrelevant based on our case here on Walton Drive. The reason those comments are irrelevant, is because we have cell phone coverage, and our zoning board proved and adjudicated on it already, while those other localities may not have service. I do believe cell phone coverage is a necessity in places where there is no coverage, but Homeland has it wrong on Walton Drive. Based on all the evidence and all the back and forth over the last 3 years with the Walton Drive site and other sites around the area, I would suggest that the general consensus is no, people do not want to live next door to a cell phone tower, Mr. Vicente, especially within 150 feet of your home. How did I come up with this opinion? Simple. If Homeland Towers actually reached out to 5 different property owners, like they claim they did over the last several years in the town of Carmel area, where a cell tower could actually work, then how come none of those property owners signed up or jumped on board? Well, this certainly goes against what Mr. Vicente said in the last meeting. How about the denial of the Mount Kisco cell tower site? Guess they didn't want it either. Wait, how about the folks on Croton Falls Road? Well, they definitely didn't want it, and here we are on Walton Drive feeling the same way. I'm sure you see the trend here, and I don't believe Mr. Vicente painted an accurate description of what homeowners actually want and the actual needs of the communities that need coverage versus communities that have adequate coverage. As for Mr. Gaudioso, he continues to defend his completed application for the tower here on Walton Drive. Rightly so, and an impressive application to say the least. However, regardless of how complete he thinks this application is, he fails to prove that a tower is actually needed here. As stated, ruled, and adjudicated by our zoning board, if Mr. Gaudioso thinks his application is so complete, how come he is requesting such enormous variances from our town with reference to setback and height of the tower? He already knows that the town code, what the town code is, and continues to ignore it, and the arrogance to continue to pursue such high demands from our planning and zoning boards is nothing short than it being ludicrous. This application is obviously incomplete. On Friday evening, I received notification from my attorney that a motion had been filed with the federal court, which of course we all knew that Homeland was going to do. One of the items on the motion is a leave to amend their complaint to add a claim challenging the zoning board's denial for the Walton Drive Tower. What is this claim for? What are you challenging? You got your entire explanation as to why the tower on Walton Drive was denied. Mr. Silvio Balzano from the zoning board outlined a detailed explanation stating you have no proof an actual tower is needed here based on the research. With that being said, a letter from Klaus Wimmer dated March 20th, 2003 states he is responsible for identifying a suitable location for the telecommunications facility that would remedy the significant gap in reliable service in the area. Mr. Wimmer also has it wrong. Once again, as proved by the zoning board, a cell tower on Walton Drive is not your answer. In conclusion, over the last 3 years, we have discussed, negotiated, and argued over this matter with no real resolution in sight. We have watched Homeland and Co. spew facts to us that simply, that may be true and others that are entirely false. It is my impression that Homeland and its counselors have zero compassion for the people in these neighborhoods, that there has been zero consideration for the communities involved, and they think they can just steam on through places where we live and burden us with this. The tower Mr. Vicente described in the last meeting that is located in the neighborhood that he resides in is surely not within 150 feet of his home. He doesn't care how close the Glencoma facility is
Speed it up, please.
to our homes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. No, please, we have a busy agenda tonight. Thank you. I gave Rob some liberty. He's the first speaker. I know we went over time there, but I thought you wanted to do an introduction, so I'll take that as that, okay? Anyone else wish to be heard on this applicant? Please sign in and state your name.
Good evening, Brian Miller, Kia Ora Boulevard. I want to thank the board first just for holding this over for a second hearing. I thought it was vitally important that we were also given a late submission at the last meeting, so I truly do thank you for giving us the time to review this submission. And I did take some time to review this submission and wanted to point out some things that I went through as I looked through this submission. Homeland Towers submitted a variety of photos of the area, and even so much as the board had requested, show us a photo of what's it going to be like living next to this. And again, they go down by 43 Walton, beyond the apex of the hill. They're not showing us exactly what this tower is going to look like living 174 feet from the tower. They're going on the other end of Walton, and you could see the apex of the hill and keeps going down to where the tower is. I also note that the photos of the tower they provide only have one single set of whatever these cell phone devices are. However, when you look later in their application, they provide photos where there's a set of devices, I don't know what you call these, panels, if you want to call them that. And they set them at 140, 130, 120, roughly down to 100 feet. None of these photos show those panels. And I also think that's vitally important because I don't remember if it was before you or the zoning board. Mr. Gaudioso stood up here and said they did a test with the crane. They tested the measurements at 140 feet, 120 feet, 100 feet, and they said that as you got down 120, 100 feet, the service wasn't good because of the topography. So are we looking at just panels at 140 feet, or are we looking at them in 120, 100 feet? Where they've already admitted that the topography doesn't work. So why are we using this location? Just because you have a willing landlord doesn't mean this is the right fit. And I wanted to go through Homeland Towers submitted.
Rob, just in summary, please. Brian,
Yes, but I just want to go through their letter.
in summary. We've seen all their letters.
A summary, yes, but a couple things, because I don't know if they're trying to create the narrative. I keep seeing these things about only 53 trees. I don't know if there's case law about the trees, but nobody's, I haven't heard you guys ask any questions about the trees. I don't know why they keep going on about the trees. There's one, to move the road coming up from down in Maple Hill. And they said it's going to take out more trees. Everybody knows it's going to take out more trees. That wasn't requested. They provide a photo of what it's like to see the cell phone tower up on the mountain from Walton Drive. That's 1.5 miles away. I still think it's an eyesore. I have a beautiful sunset, and every time I look out there, there's the cell phone tower, but it's 1.5 miles away. When you look out there, you don't see people living underneath that. And I'm trying to summarize real quick. They submit in their letter that they provided this tower to cover the vicinity along Union Valley Road and the adjoining residential streets. And I submit to you that's not the case. I've showed you the photo. I don't want to rehash, but the goal objective is Lake Lincolndale.
When you look at the submissions, when you look at the drive tests, Union Valley Road is covered, and its surrounding areas are covered. The coverage here they're looking for is Lake Lincolndale, which is Westchester County, not Putnam County, not your constituents. I also just wanted to go a little bit into, Mr. Vicente stood
Brian,
up
you
here.
need to wrap up.
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Vicente stood up here, said he could see his cell phone tower from his house. Now, I'm not going to give you his address, it's public information. That cell phone tower is a half a mile from his house, not 174 feet. And that's the real issue here, is they want to put a tower 174 feet away from these things. And you're, as I told you before, I'm going to wrap it up real quick, you'll be creating precedent. Now, I know he told you that's not precedent because there's already towers in residential areas. Because there's already towers in residential areas, that's precedent. What they don't have is a monopole 174 feet from people's house.
Gotcha. Thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Others that wish to be heard tonight?
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can I just give a couple brief responses?
Of course.
Some just incorrect statements there. There was no denial in Mount Kisco. Talk about relevance, that's not relevant, but there was no denial in Mount Kisco. In fact, Homeland Towers has an application in Mount Kisco. The village had asked Homeland to look at an alternative, which was the Village Park property, and the village board, after studying it for about a year, ultimately decided that they would not proceed with an alienation procedure in order to alienate the property to be able to lease it, but there was no denial. There was also no motion filed in federal court. In fact, there was a pre-motion letter as required by the court in order for leave to be able to enforce the consent order by bringing an amended and supplemental complaint based on the zoning board's denial, and that's in process now. The plans show that the facility would be designed for co-location. That's strictly because of your code. Your code requires it. Your code, in fact, required that we submit a certification that we would do that, and we did submit that as part of the application. And as far as the coverage, that's incorrect. If you look at the PureCon report, it specifically shows the 4 different areas, half of which are in the town of Carmel where the coverage is needed. So the statement that we're just trying to cover Lake Lincolndale is completely false, as shown in the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just, I just wanted to comment on, we got the 11th hour submission of the real estate appraisal study.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, we were getting, the morning of that report, we were getting comments that were submitted to the record by the opposition. So we responded to those comments. So to characterize them as 11th hour, I think, is a bit prejudicial, considering the fact that that morning we received comments regarding real estate values that were submitted to the record.
Well, I say it for this reason. I got it today, okay? So I didn't have a great deal of time to parse it, and by no means do I consider myself an expert or knowledgeable in the valuation of real estate, but I do consider myself an intelligent person, and I can read a report and parse certain things out. And the point I wanted to make is this. You look at square feet and you look at sales, and then you compare with a view of a cell tower versus not a view, and he concludes basically that the square foot price, there's no difference really, or minimal difference. And the thing I'd like to point out is, it's not really clearly defined what a view is. Is it a view a half a mile away, or is it a view when you open your front door and 175 feet is the base of a cell phone tower? See, that, in my opinion, would be much more relevant to this project.
Well, I think if you marry that to the report that Mr. Wimmer submitted, you see how many of those sites are within those same types of proximities. And I don't know if you read my cover letter, but at least I believe it was approximately a half dozen courts actually agreed with the methodology in the land appraisal report that we submitted. So that's been fairly well litigated, and each and every case has come out in favor of that's a proper methodology.
Listen, I'm not going to dispute that. I'm just telling you from my perspective, this is a unique situation, truly. I mean, we have a...
It's not a unique situation, but with all due respect, there's a tower across the street that's within exactly the same proximity to the residential structure on the corner. So it's not a unique situation whatsoever. The cell phone tower that's right across the street.
It looks like a flagpole.
But that was
Well,
also, that was
it's
built
supposed to
under a
look like-
different code, though.
It's supposed to look, Yeah, but it's not a unique, he said it's a unique situation.
I just wanted to let you know,
You can
there-
come
there
up
would-
with any code you want. The fact of the matter is that tower, the tower on Crest, is just as close, if not closer. We pointed out another tower in the town. We pointed out 7 other locations that are within the same proximity. So to say that this is a unique circumstance, it's not, number one. And number two, we've proposed an alternative here to show you that we would meet the setback.
How
So-
long, I'm sorry, how long
and-
have those towers been up, the ones you're talking about? How long have they been there?
All of those towers have been there, they've been developed over the last 20 years in some cases.
And do you have any idea what the real estate price is around those towers? If people have had trouble selling or buying?
No, I
or
think if
moving
you
in?
look at our report, that's exactly the point.
Well, that's
That-
why I haven't looked. I'm just asking, do you know off the top of your head?
I
Do you
know
know?
yeah, I know the
Okay.
report that we submitted showed that exactly that they do not have a diminution in property values. So the assumption or the speculation is just that. It's not based on evidence. But when you look at the evidence of the 16 different locations that were studied in the report, all different types of facilities, all different designs, all different locations, in very close proximity in most cases to residences, no diminution in property values. From an MAI certified appraiser based on actual data submitted and obtained from the municipalities.
So this tower we're talking about, how much coverage will it supply for Westchester County?
When you say how much, what do you mean by how much?
Well, it's in Putnam County, but how many residents or what area of Westchester County will benefit from the tower being here in Putnam County?
Well, I think you're looking at something based on a static or immobile situation. So I live in Westchester, I come to Putnam. You might live in Putnam and go to Westchester. But what we did in the report, and it's all in the report that we submitted back in December, it goes through the square mileage of each location within Putnam and within Westchester. It goes through the number of residents based on the census data that are in each of those locales. So it's all in that report, and it's all detailed down to the last person. But at the end of the day, that's not a relevant criteria under your code. I mean, I have to stress that your code, we're here for site plan and special permit approval, and there's nothing in your code that shows or that requires that we show some type of gap in the town of Carmel.
Right.
Although we already do. We do show it. The report shows it very clearly.
Right. And I understand that, but it's evident that the residents of the area have the concern. And I'm just pointing that out. If it's covering more people in Westchester than Putnam, why is it in Putnam County? And
So-
I know you say it's in the report.
It's
I
not,
don't know
though,
if
but
everybody's seen
it's,
it.
so that's a false assumption. First of all, it's a
Well,
false
I'm
assumption. And
not-
secondly, there are towers that we showed in the report that are in Westchester that are covering Carmel.
Right, but
Should Somers not allow a tower
I
in Somers
understand
to
that,
cover
but
Palmer?
those may not be in someone's backyard, 174 feet
No, it
away
actually
from
is
the
in
house.
someone's backyard. It's
Okay.
in the Heritage Hills shopping, it's in the Heritage Hills condominium, and it's right smack in the middle of the condominiums.
Near the water tower.
Yeah.
Let's move it on. We've heard from the public tonight. Anthony?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and to prepare a denial resolution on this.
Second.
Pat, would you do, you going to second close the public hearing? All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Pat, I think we ought to do a roll call vote for the denial resolution that Anthony just made.
On the motion, Vicki, how do you vote?
Denied.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the motion was.
You want to repeat yourself, Anthony?
The motion was, part one, to close the public hearing, and second, to prepare a denial resolution for this application.
So is the application being, is the motion to deny the application is what I'm trying to understand?
It's to
Yes.
prepare a denial resolution, which would be voted on at the next meeting. So,
Yes, denied.
Anthony,
For the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
For the motion.
Mr. Cote, for the motion, Mr. Frankel,
For the motion.
and John.
For the motion, sir.
Could I ask what the basis that you're directing the denial motion?
It'll be in the resolution. Pat's going to prepare a resolution, it'll be in there.
But there's no direction on what the basis is for that denial?
It'll be in the resolution.
Okay, but the board is not giving direction, is what I'm asking. Like, how does the consultant know what the basis is for the denial, is what I'm trying to understand.
Through all our meetings.
Okay, so based on what was discussed in the meetings?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else other than what was discussed in the meetings?
Nothing else but was discussed in meetings.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please. We have a lot more on the agenda, thank you. Wow. Standing room only. Hi, George. Next thing on the agenda, Willowwood Country Club, 551 Union Valley Road, for a public hearing. Mike, I don't believe you had any comments.
I do not have any further comments. It's on for a public hearing.
That's correct. And Rich, anything you want to read into tonight?
The answer is, there are some minor comments that have slowly being worked on. Mostly, it's a wetland and a validation map that needs to be provided to us ultimately, but that can be provided moving forward.
And there are no further comments, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is on tonight for a public hearing.
So since there's a large audience tonight, I'm going to repeat myself to the last applicant. Try not to be repetitive for those that want to speak. When you come up, please sign in. Try to limit yourself to 2 minutes or so, and let's conduct ourselves professionally.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps one person is speaking, the next person can come and sign in.
Sure. Sure.
When we call speakers, we order what they have signed up.
No, I'll just go first row, second row. Because I don't know. Oh. And I'm sure there's, no, because there's a lot of people that are going to want to speak that didn't sign in, so. Okay. Well, no.
There's a list up there, and you're gonna go through the list one by one?
No, we're not. I'm going to open the meeting up now. I'm going to ask if anyone from the public wishes to be heard. Every time we have public meetings, there are people that want to be heard that have not signed in. I don't want to leave those people out. So I will go row by row by row until everyone has an opportunity to speak. So anyone from the public wish to be heard tonight? Please, state your name and sign in if you haven't already, please. I want to make sure I give everyone ample time to speak. Again, please do not be repetitive, and please limit your comments to 2-3 minutes maximum.
Good evening, my name is John McGuire. I am a resident of Carmel. I am not a member of the Willowwood Club, nor do I know any members of the Willowwood Club. However, I am here to speak in favor of their application. Tonight, we're going to hear an awful lot of naysayers giving us reasons why we should not approve this. Let's go through some of those reasons. Some of them are going to couch their rhetoric in anti-Second Amendment. And while they are entitled to that opinion, this is not the political forum for that opinion. We are here to discuss land use. Some of them are going to discuss the fact that their quality of life is impacted. They hear noise. I will remind those homeowners that you are responsible for the mitigation of your own property. Much in the same way, you have to take care of stormwater runoff on your property. You are responsible for the sound on your property. So if you come up here and say, I hear noise, you need to also tell me what mitigation efforts you have undertaken that have failed. Also, we're going to hear from an awful lot of people that are not residents of Mahopac, that are not residents of Carmel, that aren't even residents of Putnam County. And while we do respectfully want to hear your opinion, it is just that. It is... Fluffy, it's my turn to talk. Now's the time to listen, not to speak.
Listen, you address the board, you remain seated. You address the board when you speak. And limit
Yes, sir.
yourself. You have a couple seconds left.
Okay. Their opinion on my town has about as much relevance as my opinion of their HOA and zoning. Keeping in mind, Willowwood has been there for 70 years, well before any of these homeowners purchased or even built their homes. Therefore, what happens to the peace and enjoyment of the Willowwood Club? Are we saying that we are going to take away their property rights because other people think their property rights supersede 70 years? Again, I am a resident of this town, and I am in favor of the resolution.
Okay. No, we can't be applauding after every speaker. Let's just keep order here. Otherwise, we'll have you removed from the meeting. Next person wants to speak? He's in the first, while he's in the first row, you'll be next.
I don't know how
Please,
relevant it
please,
is.
please introduce yourself, and if you haven't signed in already, please do so.
Yeah, I've already signed here.
And use the microphone, please.
Microphone.
Okay, I have a pretty good voice, so I
You need
don't
the
think-
microphone for the people that are on TV
All right,
watching.
is this, can everybody hear me? All right,
Yeah, you gotta talk this way, thank you.
how do I turn this thing on?
And
All right,
please limit
all
yourself,
right,
look, you're addressing the board, please limit yourself to 2 to 3 minutes. You're not addressing the audience, you're addressing the board.
Okay. My name is Robert Butler, and I live here on Union Valley Road, within earshot of the Willowwood Club. I'm a registered architect, and I hope to inject some professional levity into this controversy. That I have written 15 books as an architect. 5 were on architecture engineering
You only
from
have a couple
McGraw Hill.
minutes.
Wait a minute. I just want to say, I am an authority on certain aspects of this subject. My first book was The Ecological House.
I just
It
don't
was
want to
the-
see you spend your few minutes.
All right, all right. Has the EPA weighed in on this controversy? Has there been a thorough environmental assessment of this area? I have a map here, a topo map. This area is filled with wetlands. There are a number of ponds on this property. I've heard that a few years ago, they, without permission, did some environmental damage on this property. I personally don't know whether that's true or not, but this should be looked into, and if they did this, restitution and remediation should be made before any kind of decision is made on the issue that is before the board now. There are 3 issues as I see it as a professional architect. 1, literally tons of lead have been shot into these hills. What kind of environmental degradation is that going to create for the neighborhoods around it? 2, what about gunpowder smoke? I haven't heard anybody mention this. I'm sure that most of you have seen a gunfire.
Speaking to the microphone, please.
And the amount of smoke that is created and how that smoke rises. And when you have something like thousands of rounds of ammunition being shot, you're going to get a layer of smoke. And then that will eventually settle into the ground. And if it has done this for 70 years, we need to know what kind of sulfates and nitrates may have penetrated the earth in that area and could cause an environmental problem for people all around.
Please wrap it up.
And another one is the entrance to Willowwood is on a narrow, sharp curve of a road. There have been accidents there. If they're going to have a whole lot more people coming in there, and I can't vouch for this, but do these people drink while they're playing with their guns when they're partying? And this could create an accident.
We need to wrap it up, but we got a lot of people that want to speak.
I understand that, and that we need some hard analysis of what is going on there before we start giving these permissions to do what apparently is greatly increasing the activity that they are doing there.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much.
Gentleman in the front row, I think we're still in the front row.
Thank you.
You just sign in?
Yes, I did. I signed
And state
it.
your name.
My name is Camilo Santamero. I am a resident of Bedford, but I am a member of Willowwood and have been a member for a number of years. I just want to speak and say I totally support what Willowwood has been doing. It is a well-run club that cares about the environment, that cares about its neighbors, that cares about the young people in this area. We constantly run group meetings for youth that want to learn how to shoot safely. We do not drink. We do not allow alcohol on the property. We do not have parties. We do not we are very safe shooters, and that is what we train everyone to do. We run classes for veterans. We run classes for policemen. We give free access to the local policemen so they can come shoot. We take care of our place because we've owned it for 70 years. We are a member-owned club, and I will spend extra money to make sure that it is well cared for and the environment is well taken care of. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So I want to speak wholeheartedly and try to ask you to endorse and approve this motion, because we are a very well-run club that cares about what goes on in our area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're in the second row, and as Pat just mentioned, please address the board, not the audience. I know I've said it a few times.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. This is the first
Please-
time I've ever
please sign-
addressed any of you. My name is Jim Chepperwain. I live here in Mahopac since 1976.
Use the microphone, not for us,
I'm
for
sorry,
the
can
people
you
who
hear
are
me
watching
all
on
right?
TV. Yeah, it's
The
more for
reason
the...
why I'm here is the quality of life
George, is that
issue.
microphone on? Can you just check that? Thanks.
It's a quality of life issue. That's really what it comes down to. I've tried to listen to the pros and cons about gun safety, about the air and what have you. It comes down simply, ladies, it's sound. It is sound. I'm not anti-gun. I'm a shooter. I belong to the Department of Corrections. I'm a combat veteran of Vietnam. I hunt with large caliber firearms. It comes down quality of issue. That's what you want, sound. The people that live in Westchester County should not have to hear the gunfire that comes from Putnam County. Gunfire is annoying. It echoes. It should not affect their quality of life. I'm not asking you to shut down a gun range. Please, I want gun ranges. I want us to be able to shoot safely. But please, we can have this range do something to protect their quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. No applause tonight. All right, we're on to the second row. Second row over, that gentleman right there. Please state your name and sign in. Use a good microphone. One of those was working pretty well.
Is that it here?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the one.
please.
Okay. My name is Graham Cooper. I happen to live in Somers, and I'm here to comment on the Willowwood Gun Club because I literally hear it, and it's right next to my house. Whether anyone thinks that's relevant or not, I'm not really concerned. I wanted to thank the board and the chairman for taking the time to listen to us tonight. Again, I'm directly affected, along with thousands of Mahopac and Somers residents, by the proposed expansion site of the Willowwood Gun Club in front of us today, along with its existing shooting areas. This plan places lead in the runoff and directly into the ground of the wetlands that supply water to our local communities and the city of New York. All current recommendations for shooting range design and operation are to never shoot into wetlands, do not allow runoff into wetlands, along with a design that supports remediation. Also worth noting is do not shoot into your neighbor's property. The Willowwood expansion plan chooses to ignore all the above. I am here to speak on the hazards of lead contamination from the shooting that will occur on the sport clay course if approved. Unfortunately, to do that, I need to address the estimated 1 million pounds of lead on the existing trap course of the Willowwood Country Club. Willowwood is asking for a permit. Well, I'll skip over that to save time. It appears to me that Willowwood put their thumb into the wind and decided what a sport clay design should be. They chose to ignore a few facts. Have a remediation plan in place. Do not allow runoff into the wetlands. Shoot on a flat course. Never, never, never shoot onto your neighbor's property. Observe the 900-foot shot fall safety zone for shooting lanes. This plan is a disaster. The shooting zones or lanes located on their property are all within the recommended shot fall safety zones of each other. To be clear, they're shooting into each other. They have 3 shooting lanes that shoot directly into the town of Somers, whose shot fall safety zones extend up to 750 feet into the Heritage Hills property. My guess is they have not procured an easement to do so. In spite of the fact that Willowwood has cradle to grave responsibility for every shot fired, past and present, they have no plans to reclaim any of the lead that they will leave on the site, and based on the club's own calculations, that will be 60 tons per year. The EPA and the National Sports Shooting Foundation, along with other experts in outdoor range design, recommend having a lead best management plan, also known as a BMP. As per the club's own admission, it is not possible to remediate the lead on the sport clay course. Unfortunately, almost all the water runoff from that course would be into the New York DEC wetlands. This is an important design consideration to have in the Willowwood BMP or lack thereof. To make matters worse, the existing trap shooting area and 5-stand sport clay courses shoot directly into New York State DEC wetlands located on their property and the easement property they are responsible for. This is considered the cardinal sin of outdoor shooting range design, and it is recommended to stop this practice immediately.
Thank you.
Is anybody interested in all the permits they're supposed to have? RCRA, Clean Water Act,
We're well aware.
Superfund? Okay. You're well aware of all that? Well, thank you for the consideration. I would like to request a continuance for comment on this. Our counsel could not make it tonight and was not able to file a brief due to the short notice.
We'll continue listening to people.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration.
We're in the second row still. George, why don't you just sit in the front row? Because we'll give you an opportunity at the end to speak.
Sure.
Did you sign in?
Yes, I did. Thank you, and is this on? Okay, am I on now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Justin Cooper. I'm a resident of Somers, and I'm here to talk about Willowwood and noise. So one position that the club has made, they've done a noise study, and they have provided that to the board. Now, a key piece of information that the club's representatives have provided is their understanding that New York State General Business Law, Section 150, provides that there's a 90 decibel sound limit for shooting ranges, and that overrides or supersedes local ordinances. Now, quite frankly, that's inaccurate. Now, the law is a complex thing, and I respect that, and thankfully we have judges to interpret the law. And this is also not the first time in New York State that a shooting range has had an objection to a local sound ordinance. So this is the full ruling in Hunter Sports Shooting Grounds, Inc., v. Foley, from 2019. It is a New York State Supreme Court ruling that is a state court. And this is a gun range in Suffolk County, New York, that had an objection to their local ordinance, that they had to have a sound ordinance, that they had to abide by. Now, they made a litany of arguments, and a legal analyst made the joke that, it was a shotgun approach on the number of arguments they made because it was a skeet shorting course. But the key part is that they had the same position. They believed that New York General Business Law, Section 150, provided for a 90 decibel sound limit that overrode the town ordinance. And I would like to quote, "The clear language of the statute, which became effective November 1st, 1994, General Business Law, Section 150, added by the legislature in 1994, Chapter 543, Section 1, conditions the decibel levels on the absence of other applicable sound ordinances at the time of enactment." And this is for the other town. Bear in mind, the town's noise ordinance, which became effective in 1987, preempts General Business Law, Section 150, by the express terms of the statute. So, having established that, the club has established they would like to be good neighbors, the sound ordinance applies, and if you look at the existing sound study, they're already in excess of 60 decibels, 65 decibels minus 5 for an impulsive sound. That's the town of Carmel ordinance. Finally, I'd like to move to just quickly on the matter of citing. So,
Very quickly, we have a lot of people that want to speak.
Very quickly,
tonight,
I
and
understand.
You can always send
No.
your comments into Rose, and she'll distribute them all to us.
No, I understand. So very briefly, the town of Carmel ordinance is that measurement is done at the receiving property line. If they followed the general business law, it would be 100 feet into the receiving property line, which is 100 feet into the other person's property. Why did Willowwood or their representative not try to measure into those property lines? They did not ask us permission. We would have granted it. We would have given them that point. But instead, they measured several thousands of feet away from the furthest property line. So it's not a good argument that they could not measure that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to be rude. I just want to give everyone an opportunity to speak tonight. We're still in the second row. Please state your name and sign in.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Patricia Perez. I live at 507 Union Valley Road. I'm here on behalf of my family to express our opposition to the amended site plan for Willowwood Club that they're pursuing in front of your board. Also, please be aware that we are part of the group of neighbors that have retained an attorney to represent us, and we are asking for a continuance. I've been in front of this board several times, in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, in front of the Environmental Conservation Board since 2017, and I am opposing the expansion of the club for many reasons. First and foremost, I would like to mention what is Willowwood contributing to our community. They have 2 part-timers working at the club. They have people coming from all over the areas to our neighborhood. What I state here is they have nothing to contribute except for creating a public nuisance for the homeowners of the surrounding areas. The club is preventing us from enjoying our homes and the outdoors. If the club is allowed to expand, our quality of life would decline. My question to the board is, what are you going to do to the possible health hazards from the lead that the club had deposited on the land, the wetlands, and possibly the drinking water since the club's inception? The board task is, one of the tasks is to address the issues of land use, environmental, and fiscal impact, to name a few. How can this board approve this application without addressing the remediation for the lead contamination on this land? And I also want to point out that many times the representative of the club has been in front of this board. They mentioned that they use steel shots. And the noise study that the club submitted to this board actually states that they use lead. There is also the issue of excessive noise produced by the club. We are aware that you reviewed the study with your own company. Despite of how the sound is measured, how can you believe that is within the decibel levels that the town ordinance allows? How about when there are 20, 60 shooters during the club's hours of operations? So my question to the board is, what is the plan for ongoing monitoring of the sound level at the club? What kind of equipment is it going to be used? Who is going to be responsible to answer the neighbors' calls when we call, when our backyards sound like a war zone during a tournament?
Thank you.
Finally, how is the board going to address our decrease of our property values? I urge this board to protect the well-being of the residents of this neighborhood versus the members of the club that want to play in our neighborhoods. Willowwood cannot be trusted to police itself.
Please wrap it up.
The town of Carmel and the planning board needs to do it for us.
Thank you. We're still in the second row. Anyone else wish to be heard in the second row? Please state your name, sign in. Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My name is...
Whoever wants to speak next, just key yourself up and sign in ahead of time so we just speed it up a little bit.
My name is Pamela Manna. I'm a resident of Somers, Heritage Hills, to be specific. We have been living in Heritage for about 15 years now, and we've heard the guns from day one, but they've been tolerable, more than tolerable. We've learned to live with them as part of the sound in the community. Sure, when there's tournaments, it's excessively noisy, but other than that, we just live with it, and there's never been any kind of an issue. About 2 years ago, we were in the house when all of a sudden it sounded like an explosion, a crackling. I can't even begin to express in words the kind of noise. My husband jumped. He has PTSD, and he reacted very negatively. We went outside to see where the noise was coming from, couldn't figure it out, and he said it's coming from somewhere over the crest of the hill. Where we live is the last home on the Westchester line. The gun club is on the other side of the hill. Where the new stations are is actually yards from our home. My husband went up there on Monday, climbed up the hill, and saw where all the trees were cut down and the new stations existed. I implore the board here, even though we are not from Putnam, to please listen to what some of the people very close to you. I'm probably closer to these guns at the newer station than most of the people in this room. And to say that it's causing a problem, my husband and I are 78 years old. We can't go anyplace at this point. We can't relocate. To say it's causing us a severe hardship would be putting it mildly. As you can see, I'm really nervous standing here. I'm very appreciative that you, the Planning Board of Putnam, gave me the opportunity from another county to get up and express my feelings.
Thank you.
I thank you.
And again, the next person, please get into that seat and then cue yourself up.
Board.
Name and...
How are you, sir? Name's Mark Gazzola. I am a resident of Somers. I'm also a member of Willowwood. I'd like to address
Is the
some...
other microphone better? Is that only, which one's?
Hello? Hello?
Stay with the one you had, yep.
So I'd just like to address some of the safety issues. In doing so,
Just try to keep it to...
Understood.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
20 seconds. I am a CRSO with the NRA.
CRSO?
Chief Range Safety Officer. I do hold that title. I've also worked with Westchester County DA's office. I'm an expert firearms witness. I testify on the stand for put bad guys away. With that being said, as far as safety, we do not shoot at each other. We have very safe fields of fire. We do not fire big bore rifles or anything, and George will address that later. And we're very concerned about our shot fall and where our shots are and our placement and our stands and where we shoot. We're very methodical and thoughtful, and no one is ever in danger at the club where we shoot. And I am in favor for continuing to shoot there. I think it's a great asset, and I really enjoy the club. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, get ready, please.
Hello, I'm a member of the club. I rise in support of the...
Please introduce yourself. And
I'm Andrew Young. I'm signed in. I'm down in Scarsdale, and I'm a member there. I brought my young son and several business members there. So from...
You gotta hold the microphone fairly close.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. A little deceiving there. I'm down in Scarsdale. I brought my family and members to the club, and I rise in support of the club as well. Certainly economic impact-wise, I've brought many business members into this area, many business meals. It's very safe.
Could you speak up?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's certainly a very safe club. I've introduced various minors who will be shooting in universities and attending schools and that sort of thing, and they're pursuing that sport on a sportsmanship basis. They've learned that core of safety value at that club. And so I don't want to add anything more, but I wanted to rise and emphasize that safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we're in the, I put in a, right there, Vinny, thanks. Anyone else in the second row coming across? Third row? Fourth row? All right, you're at fourth row. Please state your name, sign in if you haven't already.
Good evening. My name is Danny Zito. I live in Mahopac for over 21 years now and have been a member of Willowwood for quite some time. I would like to share my story about what brought me to Willowwood. My son Frank, who is a member, started to show an interest in shooting sports at an early age. Most kids played football, baseball, basketball, even hockey. Frank did as well, but by the beginning of high school, He was such a competitive level in shooting events that Willowwood became his second home. The hours he spent shooting trap, five-stang, and sporting clays were especially countless. What stood out even more was the support from several of the members. They took Frank under their wing. He practiced, traveled, and squatted with these men. Sporting clays was Frank's discipline of preference, and he benefited immensely when the sporting clays area was added. If it were not for Willowwood, my son would not be where he is today. Frank was recruited by the University of Alabama shotgun team. He currently is in his spring semester of junior year and has traveled with his teammates on a collegiate level. He continues to return to Willowwood during his breaks and works and shoots here during the summer. Willowwood and its members have the most definitely made a lasting impact on my son's life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Nice story. Have you signed in?
I did, I
Thank you.
already did.
Thank you.
My name is Eric Woolley. This is my son sitting back there. His name is Charles. I've been a Mahopac resident for over 20 years. I am not a member of Willowwood Club. However, my son has a junior membership with the club. He got interested in shooting at a young age, and I'm not a shooter, and I couldn't help him. We found Willowwood, and they taught him safe gun practices, taught him how to shoot shotgun sports. He now shoots in every summer and winter league the club offers. He's participated in Ducks Unlimited sporting clays events. It's been a great experience for my son and our family. In my opinion, it's an asset to have this club and a new sporting clays in Mahopac. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm signing in, sir.
Thank you. State your name.
Frederick John Winberg.
Thank you.
I'm a life member of the VFW 5491 in Mahopac here, and 25-year member of the American Legion. And I'd like to thank John from the Willow Club, who has brought many of my friends, men and women, to the Willow Club for a joyous full day of learning what to do properly. And they fed us quite well. Thank you very much. I enjoy their services that they do for the community also.
Thank you. Next speaker, queue up, please.
Hello, I'm Ellen Barth. I live in northern Westchester, and I've been a member of Willowwood for over 6 years. I started clay sports as a teenager with my family, and until I found Willowwood, I'd have to travel many hours to practice my sport. Interestingly, clay target sports are one of the few sports where women and men can compete on equal footing. And there are also not many clubs that allow women to be full-fledged members. So Willowwood not only allows women to be members, but they welcome it. And I do believe that is an asset these days. Being one of the women of Willowwood has opened me to a community of other wonderful women. It's a very empowering and confidence-building experience. To give back to the community and share our love of the sport, I, as well as the other women of Willowwood, hold annual Ladies' Days to introduce women in the community. It's open to anyone in the community who wants to participate. We were running them annually until the pandemic, and hopefully we'll be resuming those again. Next month, we will actually be hosting a Girl Scout troop so that young women at the age when I was first introduced to shotgun sports will be able to try it out and hopefully love it as much as I do. I do hope that the board will favorably consider Willowwood's application. There are multiple variations of clay target shooting, and it does benefit different people for the different sports. And thank you for your consideration.
Hi. Sorry. My name is Karen Bohm. I'm a 40-year resident of Mahopac. Extremely nervous. I'm not a public speaker, and this is very impromptu. I'm not an expert. I am a resident that lives just down the road from Willowwood. I live at the top of a hill. So in spite of the one gentleman that claimed that it's my responsibility to mitigate sound, we are surrounded by towering pines. We have a lot of wood coverage around us. I don't agree beyond that. It's my responsibility to guard myself against the sound of the gun club. And also my house was built before the gun club, so just needed to address those two issues. I'm not here to request the gun club be shut down. There's been some great people talking about positive effects on their lives and their kids' lives. I'm just here as a resident that has been impacted over the 40 years I've lived here. We got used very quickly to the sound on the weekends of kind of just the pace and the relentlessness of the shooting, and you begin to kind of just absorb it and get past it because they have a right to be there, I have my right to be here. As it got noisier in the last few years, I mean, it's gotten to the point where I can't be out on the weekends on my deck reading. I have company come and their immediate reaction is, what the heck? Seriously? And it's really impactful. We're at a point in our lives, retired, considering selling. I would never have an open house on a weekend. I couldn't, a realty open house. I mean, there's no way. It would just be, it'd be a no-go for anybody that came to hear that. My second concern, very, very big concern, perhaps even past the noise, is the environmental impact of the lead. I'm not an expert. I don't know. I do know that our entire neighborhood is private wells. We all have the well water from, groundwater. And I'm not hearing, I don't know a lot. There's a lot more I have to look into in terms of what's been looked into EPA-wise or recommendations. I know in Somers at the Mahopac Reservoir, New York City is 10 years into lead remediation from a shut-down gun club there from I don't know how many years ago. But it's something that I don't think we should wait until after the fact to find out what the effects are when we're left trying to clean up the effects of it. That's it, basically. Just wanted to kind of have my say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please come up.
I signed it. My name is Carl Stark. I'm a Mahopac resident. I've been here for 18 years. I am a member of the club. I think it's an asset to the community. I'm a new member, like maybe 2.5 years now. I take my kids there all the time. My girls love it. It's just a great family outing. And we're losing these things left and right. As far as the environmental stuff goes, the local deer herd that live on our front area, I mean, they don't seem to mind. They're there all the time. I think they're happy that they have, the acreage that we provide. And the birds, when we're out there shooting, they fly over. It doesn't bother them. They keep fly over our heads and back and forth, and they're fine with it. We're not affecting them, and they have a place to land and to feed. And with when we cut down the trees for the new stands, that's going to provide new browse for all those deer that are running around everybody's yard, right? Everybody's got these fences up around their yards now, pushing all these animals out. We provide a home. I mean, I think we're environmentally friendly. And as far as the lead goes, if you guys, anybody here fertilizes their grass, you can't say anything about the lead because you don't care about the water going into your well. Read a bag of fertilizer. And then, lead comes out of the ground. I grew up in New Rochelle. I drank water from my spigot, from the house there. It was a lead line pipe. 18 years. I'm still here. I shouldn't be here from something else, but I'm still here, so. And then this, one last thing. You guys watch the news? See all the dolphins?
You're going to have to wrap it up.
This is important. See all the dolphins that washed up on the, all right, and died? That's because the EPA granted environmental impact. They were letting people put the windmills out in the ocean, right?
All right.
So I'm
please
just
wrap
saying,
up.
environmental
Let's
things,
stay
right,
to the
we
top.
take
Just-
it all with a grain of salt.
Thank you.
That's it.
No applause. Next speaker. And please cue yourselves up so we can speed it along for everybody. Next speaker, get up front, please.
Hi, I have signed in. My name is Renee. I live in Somers. And I just want to say, first off, I think it's great that everybody's saying some really nice things about the gun club. I don't know anything about it. I also want to say that even though we're in another county, I'm in Heritage Hills, we're the next county, we're the next town over. I live on the east end, on the far side, over near the back entrance, so I'm pretty far away. And I am complaining about the noise. I haven't heard, as the woman had just said, I haven't heard anybody say anything about closing the club down. I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's great that a business is doing so well that they want to expand. It's coming down to the noise. That's where the complaints are coming into. I've got windows and doors, double panes. I hear it too. I've also gotten a little used to it, but I don't want to hear a significant amount. I have enough hearing the neighbors who make enough noise. I want to be able to open up my doors and my windows in the summertime and enjoy the quality of life that I moved up here from Down County in Westchester. And I think just basically it's not just looking at how the expansion is going to be affecting the community, but look at the volume of the people that are going to be affected by the expansion of the gun club. It really is a noise. There's only so much you can do about that. There really isn't a lot that can be done to minimize it. It is what it is. Noise travels, just like water and leaks in a ceiling. You can only do so much. So I'm here just asking for the board, as I'm sure you are, just to consider the noise and how far that's going to travel, how many people are truly going to be affected by the expansion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Early, born and raised in Mahopac, a member of Willowwood Club. First, I agree with some of people's concerns as a member, but also on the other end, I think it does provide a valuable community resource for firearm safety for young people, especially the scouts or people that are interested. Because if they don't get good safety training, the opposite could be not so good. I go to the club a few times a year. I've never seen it overly packed, maybe a half dozen people. I think that some of the concerns over the amount of rounds that are being discharged there might be exaggerated. Shooting clays, for me, from the time I was 12, it was a bonding experience for me and my dad that's now lasted over 30 years. And I think that the new addition enhances, we have world-class things in this town, like that lake, first-class library, and I don't see a reason why we shouldn't have top-notch sporting clays center. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Next speaker, queue up, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Steck. I'm a 20-year resident of Carmel. Since the mid-1980s, I've been teaching youth how to shoot across the country, and most recently, I am currently a member of the Putnam County 4-H, the Shooters Sports Program. I'm one of the instructors. In mid-2019, we began an extensive search in the county for a facility to allow our young shooters to shoot. And I'm a little depressed to say that of all the institutions in the county that we were approaching to allow our youth to shoot, nobody would grant us the permission to do so, with the exception of Willowwood. Now, for the last 3 years, the children have enjoyed an opportunity to shoot archery, air rifle, air pistol, And more recently, as we have instructors now available, they're able to finally shoot trap for those that are 12 years of age and older. Again, very much to our surprise, nobody in this county would allow us to come and use their facilities with the exception of Willowwood. Now, Willowwood does not have a conducive facility for indoor shooting, so we are limited to shooting outside. And it's unfortunate that we wound up getting open-armed invitation from the Dutchess County Pistol Association to utilize their indoor facility for our children to shoot. So for me to go to the parents of the Putnam County Shooting Club and tell them that they have to go to Dutchess County in order to utilize a facility is very depressing. We are now in a position where the board is allowing us to come and shoot at the facility more often than we currently had been. And we look forward to taking them up on that offer, but again, it's only for the children to shoot in the better weather. Being a member of the club since the early 2000s, I find it a very unique situation that I'm able to come and use and shoot in a sport that I've come to enjoy. But for our youth, it's a certainly paramount opportunity for them to shoot that no other facility in this county will afford them. Thank you, and have a good evening.
I've signed in. Good evening. My name is James Comiotis. I'm a resident of Mahopac. I'm a member of Willowwood. And I'd like to say my family has been resident in Mahopac since the late 1940s. We maintained a home here. When we came here, there were large farms and orchards all over the county and in Mahopac specifically. And over the years, those have been cut down, turned into developments, turned into malls and such. So Willowwood represents one of the few remaining larger pieces of land that are available for recreation. And certainly that is a benefit to its members, but as if you, excuse me, as you heard tonight, it's also a benefit to people who are not members, but are just members of our community that we'd like to provide some benefits to. You've heard that we provide that to the Girl Scouts, the 4-H. We honor our veterans by bringing them over and letting them enjoy a day of fun and fellowship with us at our cost, and we plan to continue that. And we also have a fundraiser annually for the last 3 years that we raise for St. John's Pantry, and you'll hear a little more detail about that tonight. So I want to say that Willowwood, somebody said, what does it do? It's nothing but a nuisance. Well, you've heard what it does, that it has nothing to do with the membership only, and it is more than just a nuisance. And I'd like to encourage the board to approve this change in the site plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Patricia Fisher, in Somers. Thank you for this time. I just have noticed one piece of very important information. All these members, and I don't disagree that it is a benefit. I personally am not a fan, but I know what skill and marksmanship and commitment and how nice it is to be able to raise your children to learn to do something of value that they take pride in. So I can see the value of this club on that level. But what happens is they come to the club and they do their work and they have their fun and they enjoy each other's company. And then they all get to go home. They all get to go home. And we have to stay day after day, every weekend, and live with it. We can't go home. I'm extraordinarily passionate about this because I moved from a place where the sound was so bad that I had to literally leave my house And I moved here in winter, and I was a happy, happy woman. Summer came, and noise happened, and I was like, what is this? I had no idea. I learned, like many have, to do alternate things during the time that they are doing what they have a right to do. We know that. But what about the true impact it has on the mental health of many of us who have sound issues, who I left this community because the noise got to be so bad. I don't want to have to leave this community again because it gets even worse than what I've learned to deal with. There's an elderly couple who says they're right there. They can't do anything anymore. All the members are coming from Scarsdale and other places, and when they're done, they get to go home. Okay. Last couple of things is the environmental issues. I'm not quite sure as to why or how that hasn't been addressed thus far, because if you're dealing with lead and whatnot in the drinking waters, that's a huge issue. Also, I can tell you one other thing, the animals are being affected from the sound. Just like the fireworks happen, many, many dogs in the neighborhood are being affected, not only just people. And also, do not be confused. Your property values are diminished. I went and looked at a property in Croton before I moved to here. I heard there was a gun place next door. I said I would absolutely never buy in any vicinity. So the property values will be diminished significantly, and you can get many, many brokers who will tell you that that is going to be a serious and real impact. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dana Dolan. I am an officer and a member of the Board of Directors of the Willowwood Club. Every December for the past 3 years, we've had a charity event to benefit the food bank at St. John. On behalf, I would like to read to you the letter we received this year from St. John's. It said, on behalf of our pastor, Father Philip Caruso, and all of our food pantry volunteers, thank you for the very generous donation of $2,700. As you probably know, food pantries, including St. John's Food Pantry, have recently experienced a significant increase in the need for our services due to the current economic conditions, while also incurring significantly higher wholesale food prices. This donation will help continue our mission of serving those in need. Very truly yours, Ed Welsh, co-director, St. John the Evangelist Food Pantry. As secretary and as a member of Willowwood, it has been my goal and is my goal to expand the club's charitable footprint. Ideally, I would like to find a girls' soccer or softball team and hold a midsummer fundraiser to support that. In a little over 2 years, the members of Willowwood have donated over $8,000 to the food pantry in Mahopac. And when they were accepting food donations, several shopping carts full of food. I am hoping that the board will approve our plan so we can go forward and make a greater contribution to the surrounding area of Mahopac. Sorry, I'm very nervous. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Please continue to queue up. It's working much better this way.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is David Bohm. I live just off of Union Valley Road, maybe a couple hundred yards up a hill from the club. I'm just want to say that I don't think this resolution is denying the right of the club to exist, and I appreciate the joys of their membership and their priority of safety and mentoring future youth. However, I feel strongly that any expansion would be without consideration of our neighborhood and our priority to protect our environment and peaceful enjoyment of our homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Frank Gallo. I live in Heritage Hills in Somers, and I'm going to try not to be redundant. I appreciate, I'm an Air Force veteran, I'm a gun owner, and I appreciate all of the good things that Willowwood does, as evidenced by the people who've spoken tonight. And it's not about diminishing what they do or stopping them from what they're doing. It's about not wanting them to expand, to increase the noise level that will impact our property value, our home values. The trees coming down, the lead in the ground, those are topics for others more qualified to discuss than I. It's really about the noise. It's not about closing down the club. I respect what they do and how they do it, and I'm glad to hear that they're good members of the community. But as good neighbors, I would respectfully request that they keep the noise level where it is and not increase the noise level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Joseph Manna. I live at Somers at Heritage Hills, and I'm probably the closest house to the gun club. It's up on the hill. I don't have any issue, and my wife doesn't have any issue with the gun club as it is now. But as it comes up, it's very intense. The noise is unbelievable. I suffer from PSTD, and I just get crazy. So I just hope that you take into consideration that you just keep the club the way it is. And all the good that it does is okay, it's great. But have it come up and have it up right by my house, it's just not acceptable to me and to my family and to all the people around me. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue to queue up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack Stein. You're gonna hear
No,
the
no, no,
sound-
no, sir, please speak to us.
You're gonna hear the sound of gunfire. This is what everybody here is asking me to let. Microphone's off, sir.
Please trust the board.
Well, my sound, unfortunately, my phone is not working. What I did is I take the sound of a shooting range.
We've all been there.
You've all been there. So all of you are asking me, and all the people in the club are asking me to live with the gunfire 30 hours a week. It's a very serious situation. It's very unfair. I've lived in Somers for 50 years. Now, if there's an indoor range in Dutchess County, there's no reason why people can't drive up there. People, on the weekends, they take their kids on a traveling soccer team. Kids go traveling on basketball. They go all over the place. People can make it a family outing. Now, the other thing is money. So there's two reasons I'm up here. About 25 years ago, I was selling my in-laws condo, and it was on a Sunday. And basically what happened is somebody came over, they took a look, and it was on Sunday, and it was a range. And the people took a look, and they turned around, and they said, I'm going to go on the other side of the hill. So they went to the other side of Heritage Hills because they didn't have to hear the sound. But the sound travels everywhere. And if there's alternatives where the club people can go to Dutchess County, or what the club can do if they really want to be a good neighbor, what they can do is go out and buy 36 rifles with silencers on them. They can provide this to the members. The members don't have to bring their own weapons. These people can use the silencers, and nobody will hear a single thing. There's not a reason why there should be any sound coming from that club. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard tonight? If there's anyone else, please queue up.
My name is Frank Rossi. I'm a member of the Willowwood Country Club, Gun Club. And I kind of look at this, I belong to the New York Athletic Club, and came here since they closed them. And even though there was a study with the Kennedys with the lead, if it's not ingested, it's similar to moving next to an airport or a parkway. You know, all of a sudden now the airport's got to change its ways because the residents don't like it. or a parkway. You live next to a parkway and there's noise going on. It's part of your, it's where you moved into. You have a neighbor. You know, the club is good neighbors. They have policies about alcohol, about behavior. It's a gentleman's club and women that are in there, and so far it's just a matter of everybody living together and enjoying it. And certain people don't like things, certain people do like things, and it's part of life. Trust God, buy gold.
My name is Austin Bohm. I'm a resident of Mahopac.
Please, I'm sorry, please, let's be courteous to our speakers.
I live on 65 Hazel Hill Road, so I live about half a mile down the road. I purchased a property at 672 Union Valley Road, which is also about half a mile down the road. I first want to say I appreciate that you've heard everybody through, and I appreciate that the discourse has been really civil. It makes me proud of our community. It makes me proud to be from Mahopac and proud to be from Union Valley. The second thing I want to say is that I appreciate everybody who's spoken, because I've learned a lot about Willowwood, and I've lived down half a mile down the road that I didn't know. And I've learned a lot about a lot of benefits that it provides that I didn't know about before. And I think to express some sentiments that a lot of people said, like, I grew up here, I've lived here my whole life, and I've learned to live with the Gun Club. And hearing that it's providing benefit actually makes me feel better. Like, I feel much more positive about it now than I did at any point. At the same time, I just would say that, like, all the things that I heard show me that the situation is functioning. And the club is functioning, it's providing the benefit to those people. And it may be a nuisance to the community, it's definitely a nuisance to me, but it's a nuisance that I can live with, because I'm a property owner and I believe that everybody has the rights to their property. When I purchased the property down the road from where I live, I purchased it in intentions of renovating it. I've gone before the town, I've gone before the DEC. So from my perspective, if they've gotten this far, they've done what they needed to do. And I don't want to try to argue about environmental stuff. That's not my area of expertise. But I think that your role as a planning board is to assess the role of the community. And when I think about developing that property that I purchased from a foreclosure auction at Putnam County, putting in a lot of money and time to developing that property, and I think about raising my kids there potentially, and then I think about how it might be different in the future if there's an expansion. That makes me hesitant about putting the time, effort, and money into continue growing our community and to me, restoring and building on our community. So I'm not contesting that Willowwood isn't providing benefit to the community. I'm just saying that I don't know as a neighbor that they've done the outreach that I would request as when I'm doing development of my property. And I think that expansion to me is something that I just want to speak vehemently against. I have no issue with the club existing. They have the right to do that, obviously. They have the right to seek expansion. And if they've done everything by the book with their plans, that's great. Just the thing I want to reiterate again is that I feel your role as a planning board is to assess the role of the community, and I'm speaking for myself as well as some other people that can't be here. So
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Marty Marco. I've been a member of Willowwood for 7 years, and something I haven't heard here is, in that 7 years, I'd say several times, new members and visitors have asked me, where do I go afterwards to eat or have a drink? And I've been able to suggest several neighborhood places like, Kobu, Rick's Seafood, Char, Red Mills. And in a sense, we do bring back people who are not from this area, do patronize businesses in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Please state your name and sign in if you haven't already. And please queue up if you want to speak next.
Hello, my name is Christian Perry. I'm a member at Willowwood. I do not live in the area, although I do live near clubs that shoot in my area. I'm also a developer, a realtor. And unless, folks have lived, that are here, have lived beyond 70 years in the neighborhood, they truly have a problem and a reason to fight the noise that's coming in, because, right, they've been there before this club was there. But now that the club exists, everyone sort of knows that the club exists. Similar to airports, I know a lot of neighbors here chuckle at that, but it's a real thing. If you're moving next to an airport, you know you're going to hear sounds, right? If you move next, I've lived under the 95 freeway in Greenwich, and I just knew that tractor trailers are going to be going 24 hours a day. So it's not something new, unless, like I said, somebody's been here longer than 70 years, and I don't think anybody here has, that really has a leg to stand on when it comes to sound. I hear that a lot. And I just want to give you my experience as a new club member. I come to the club, and I'm sometimes looking for someone to shoot with. It's not, the density is not as thick as people say it is. I come and I'm looking around sometimes waiting for somebody to come shoot. So just want to say those couple points. I think the expansion is not going to be something severe. I think it's going to bring, it brings my friend and I, who come from out of town, to your local restaurants. So to that point, that is very, very, very true. And we enjoy it. We enjoy coming here. It's a little refuge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard tonight? If there's anyone else, please queue up.
Hello, James O'Connor. I live in Heritage Hills. I came from the Bronx. I ran from the guns and the shooting. And lo and behold, I came in the wintertime. I didn't experience what I have experienced with the noise. I object to this expansion, as the noise will increase as it expands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard from the public? Okay. George, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, I would like to address the board. I've previously explained what it is that we do and what the sporting clays course is, how we shoot these different targets that go all different directions, all different presentations, unlike the existing trap and five stand. The sporting clays is a sport that really teaches people to be disciplined and thoughtful and how to break the targets. That's a sport that is the fastest growing of the shooting sports is sporting clays, and it's become very popular. Now, people have used and criticized, particularly the people from Heritage Hills have criticized the noise issues. But what they're complaining about is the existing club. This club has been there before Heritage Hills was ever built. This club was started and has been in continuous operation since 1955. We are not increasing the level of noise at all. We are moving into a different portion of the property, but the noise levels will be the exact same for the neighbors. With our experts' report, we made changes to the original plans to ensure that. In addition, the experts' report came up with various sound mitigation things like additions to the sound barriers, additional sound barriers, soundproofing on the inside of the barriers. And I really want to stress, the sporting clays course is an area, there are no wetlands on. All the complaints about wetlands and lead in the wetlands area is the existing club, already approved. There's no approvals. What we are focusing on is what I'll call the hill, the sporting clays course, which is completely dry. There's no wetlands, and somebody claimed that you can't mitigate lead on a sporting clays course. I certainly never said that. You can, and at the suggestion of this board, at considerable expense, we went out and filed or retained the leading expert on environmental stewardship for outdoor shooting ranges. And I have that report here. And some of the neighbors have filed actually a copy of the EPA best management practices for outdoor shooting ranges. And it's ironic that they did that because a couple of pages, I think it's on the 4th page in, the EPA expressly thanked Dr. Dick Petticord for his contributions to the drafting and development of that EPA best practices management plan. It says they would like to acknowledge the support of Dr. They misnamed him Mr. It's really Dr. Dick Petticord of Dick Petticord and Company. That's for his contributions in drafting this document. Now we have, and assuming this board passes and approves the sporting clays course, we are, and this can be a condition of the approval, that we adopt and follow the environmental stewardship plan that Dr. Petticord has drafted and is on file with you. And that requires all sorts of things. And quite frankly, it's a big burden on us to do that with all the work that's involved in following this and documenting it and testing and liming to control the pH. By the way, we've always limed, but this year, it's a weird year. For some reason, the ground didn't freeze, so we haven't been able to get out there. When the ground dries up in July or August, we'll be able to access that and lime. And the significance of liming to maintain the neutral pH is that lead in a neutral environment, pH environment, is inert. It doesn't do anything. Additionally, once we have the sporting clays course built, it is our intention, follow the guidelines, to apply to the ECB, the Environmental Conservation Board, to remediate the lead in the wetlands area. So and we're talking about doing it in stages, like 1 trap field or 2 trap fields at a time, reclaim the lead and restore, and then maybe the following year do another area. Some of the people have indicated that, well, you know, you should follow the guidance of MT2. MT2 is the largest lead reclamation company in the country. We have actually had MT2 out at our site, walked the site with us, talked to us about it, given us their advice on how to deal with this. Because of my relationships in the shooting community, and I've laid that out for you numerous times in the past, I'm not going to bother you with, but I've got extensive experience on the national level as a sporting clays shooter and a delegate and a range safety officer, an instructor, certified instructor, all of which requires extensive training for those things. As a result of that, I'm also very close to the head of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, NSSF, Zach Snow. So whenever I have a problem or an issue that comes up, I call Zach. Zach, I need an expert. And I get the best experts in the country. That's how I got to Dr. Petticord. That's how I got to the noise expert, Eric Thalheimer.
George,
these are the leading guys.
George, do we have a copy of the plan that you're referring to?
Yes.
The remediation plan?
It's called the Environmental Stewardship Plan. That was I filed that with Rose. It looks like this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If you don't have a copy for some reason, I can.
That's Rose. We'll find it.
It's on file with Rose. So we will be doing that. And the noise expert, he's indicated that the noise is not going to be increasing over what is there now. And some people have claimed, well, he measured a certain number of locations. They misunderstood the noise expert's report. The noise expert report is based on computer modeling. He took a 24-hour ambient noise readings throughout the community, basically a big circle around Willowwood, to get the ambient noise. And by the way, a lot of those ambient noises are louder, significantly louder than the gunshots. A truck going by on Union Valley or East Lovell at those locations is actually louder than our gunshots. But the computer then models it so he can tell what the readings are anywhere within that big circle area. So the people who criticized that really didn't understand the whole computer modeling. But the town hired its own expert, Epsilon, and basically Epsilon was very favorable to our expert's report, complimented him on a job well done and in accordance with all the applicable scientific principles regarding sound. There was, in their initial, Epsilon's initial report, they had some questions, so we had the two experts meet and confer to work out those issues, provide the additional data. The expert was satisfied with that. They had one issue about 2 locations that there wasn't an adjustment for. However, and I filed Mr. Thalheimer's response on that, that those readings were so low and they were so far away, 2,000 feet away, and on the other side of a hill, and even if you added a large adjustment to those, it wouldn't make any difference. The town would, the readings would still be under the noise ordinance. So there's a number of, nobody's spoken about it tonight, but a number of the letters submitted claimed that we illegally harvested trees, and they claimed the number of 400 trees. In point of fact, we have had a permit, a tree cutting permit, and it was for 303 trees of various species, and it designated each tree there. If you like, I can hand this.
I'm aware of that. I don't know if the rest of the board is, but I know Mike is aware of that.
And that was part of a process that we went before the ECB on that. Each and every tree to be cut was marked with like a blue spray paint by our experts, confirmed by the town's forester, and those trees, those 303 trees were cut. So to claim that we did it illegally is just wrong. It was all done properly in accordance with the codes. We got our bond back after the town's forester checked it. Some of the people have claimed that we didn't reveal that we shot on the hill and intended to shoot. Well, I have the transcript or the minutes of the June 2, 2016 meeting where I expressly discussed that we occasionally did shoot at that time up on the hill, and that the area was well suited for sporting clays up there, and that we did intend to shoot up there. That was June 2, 2016. If you'd like, I can provide you with those minutes also. Now, some of the neighbors have circulated a petition and filed letters. And a lot of the people from Heritage Hills basically signed a form letter. And they're accusing us of that we're going to shoot 8,400 rounds per day.
I'm sorry, can we just have one conversation at a time? George has the floor, and just be courteous to the speakers.
8,400 rounds per day. I would tell you that if we were shooting 8,400 rounds per day, we would be one of the largest sporting clays courses in the country. We are not. We are a tiny little club. By the way, I know exactly where they took that 8,400 per day figure from, and it's a complete distortion of what I said. They claim that I said that that's what we're going to be doing. No. During the ZBA hearings on our parking variance application, I was questioned as to the number of events, registered sporting clays events that we would hold. Now, these registered sporting clays shoots are a big burden to a small club because the members have to set up the machines. Nobody can shoot those targets until they're done. So we do not want to hold more than 4 a year. In fact, I probably shoot less than 4 a year, but to protect, if we wanted to do a certain number, we chose the number 4 to ask for as part of our application. We have 14 stations. The NSCA, which is the governing body of the sport, does not allow squads of more than 6 people. So you do the math, 14 stations times 6-man squads, that's 84 people that would be max. That's assuming we sold out the event. That's unlikely. Much larger clubs like Mid-Hudson over in New Paltz get in the neighborhood of about 70, but those are much bigger. Clubs like that is much bigger than us. But the neighbors took that 84-person figure and multiplied it times 100 rounds, and then assumed that we were going to shoot that each and every day we were open. That's just utter, complete nonsense, and I submit they knew it was nonsense when they told this to the board. The reality is that we were open for a long period of time, back in 2018, and what we experienced was that on a Thursday and Friday, we had maybe 8 or 10 people a day that would be out there. And on the weekends, we would have about 20 people a day. During that period of time that we were open, we also did a noise study that we submitted to the ZBA in conjunction with our application for a parking variance. That parking study was done every hour during the days that we were open. And actually, I think there was one day the employee was sick and it wasn't done that one day. But for that 4-month period, we measured, counted the number of cars. The maximum number of cars during that entire 4-month period was 36 cars in the parking lot. And generally, on a Thursday and Friday, it was a couple. And by the way, you have 2 employees, so 2 of the cars are the employees. So the projected numbers in the expansion, and by the way, that includes the trap fields and the 5-stand fields, as well as the sporting clays fields. So the numbers are grossly exaggerated. And the club is really not expanding. When we started this whole process, Willowwood had 202 members. As part of our variance, we indicated that we would be capped out at 250. Now, we don't actually intend to go to 250. As our own internal measures, we really are going to cap at about 225. But we're asking for the 250 number because I don't want to be in violation of a site plan. I don't want Mr. Carnazza coming over and say, oh, you know, you have 227 members, you're in violation. So,
How many members do you have now?
It's decreased a little bit since, as a result
So you
of.
had 202, but it's down
We had
now.
202, it's decreased a little bit. So we have that fudge factor built into it, but as a practical matter, we really don't intend, because we're a private club and we cater to the competitive shooter. We are unlike any other clubs, really. We have a bunch of high-level shooters that travel the country to do these big shoots. A couple of us just came back from South Carolina, big shooting, Gator Cup down there. And we work with each other. And unlike other clubs, we train, I mean really train, and work with each other. Hey, you know, the right technique on this target is this. How about this? Try this. And we work at it. And we don't want to have to wait in line like if you go to some of the public courses. So we're intentionally keeping the volumes down. The other thing is, some of these people, if they're really concerned about the environmental issues about keeping lead out of the wetlands, they should actually welcome our application, because the 5-stand, which does shoot out towards the wet area, all of that will basically move on to the sporting clays course. The 5-stand will have very little activity. Basically, it's going to be then people coming in that, you know, they've got maybe 15 minutes, you know, they can shoot a couple, you know, a box of shells maybe on the 5-stand and get out. Or inclement weather, you know, if it's raining, I've done this. You stand by the door of the clubhouse and you look out, oh, the weather just broke. I can run out and shoot around, whereas you don't want to go out onto the course and be up on top there and get soaked. So that's really where the 5-stand will be. All of that will be moving up to the head, which the hill. Oh, by the way, somebody mentioned something in the letters about that we should have to get an archaeologist. We actually did, as part of the tree cutting process, have to get an archaeologist to verify, and did verify, that there are no archaeological or historical sensitive areas of the sporting clays course. We've already done that. It's been done. It's negative
As part of the application.
as part of the tree cutting service, yes. So unless the board has any other questions, and I would defer to Mr. Williams on any of the engineering data, which is over my head.
Go ahead, Bob.
George, we touched on this at the last meeting. This is the issue about the town law, and I think you explained probably several times that your intent is to voluntarily comply with the town noise law, even though you believe that the state law preempts. Putting the preemption aside and just focusing on the town law, I want to focus on one sentence which speaks to how the measurement of the noise levels should be conducted. The measurement shall be conducted at the property line on which such noise is generated or perceived, whichever is appropriate in a residential district, or at the boundary lines of the receiving land use district.
Right.
I know there is reflected in correspondence, and I think your response, there's at least one resident who's insisting that the sound testing was done 500 or more feet from the property line. Can you speak to that issue and explain?
Right. Well, part of it, the existing club is grandfathered in, so those sounds on the...
Putting aside the grandfather issue, I'm focusing just on your own statements about voluntary compliance with the town law.
Yes.
So the town noise ordinance is written for a variety of situations, one of which is for an existing facility where you might file a complaint. And if that were to happen, you go out with a noise meter, you take a measurement, and you have to figure out where to take a measurement from. In this instance, we went a step beyond that and actually conducted a noise study where we created a model for not just at our property line, but surrounding areas, so that based on questions that come up from your own noise expert, from public, from the board, we can look and assess noise values at various places, both along our property and beyond. So this is a little bit more of a detailed study than just taking singular noise measurements. It's an actual calibrated model based on a surrounding area. And what I believe, if you look into that report, you'll find that the noise measurements were, George, I believe, reported at the property line? Or at receptor locations, which were determined to be more strategic than just their property line.
I guess what I'm scratching my head about, and that's because I'm not an expert, is are you saying that the calibration model that you're referring to, which is described in the report, is compliant with the town specification that I just read?
What I'm saying is, because I'm not a noise expert either, we have one on our team. It's a different way of measuring and assessing the noise. And I would actually rely on your noise experts' review of our noise experts report, because you guys did hire an independent noise consultant to review our consultant's work. And I do believe that they've resolved all the issues and they found our noise report acceptable. And I'm saying that only because I don't want to sound like I'm up here saying everything's okay. You actually have an independent expert you guys have hired to evaluate our work.
So maybe we need to go back. I did not see in our experts'
I saw exports
report, but what I did not see in there is specific reference to this issue versus the calibration model.
There's two reports by Epsilon. There was the initial one and then a follow-up one.
Right. But I don't think this specific issue was addressed. Maybe we need to go back and ask that to our expert.
Any other questions from the board? So we heard a lot of people speak tonight. And I did hear also for continuance from a few people. I want to respect that. I don't believe we're going to hear anything new. Noise, environmental impact, wetland, safety, the expansion. I think we gave everyone an opportunity to speak. I don't really think we'll hear anything new. So my recommendation would be to close the verbal part of the public hearing, but as a courtesy to the applicants, let them at least be able to submit correspondence. Someone said the attorney wasn't here, but at least let them submit correspondence over the next 10-day period. Keep the written comment period open. I think it's fair. I think it's the right thing to do to both parties. I just don't want to go through another public hearing knowing that we're not gonna hear anything new. I honestly don't believe that. We've all studied this for quite some time. We've listened to everybody. I think it's a balance and respect for both parties to do it this way.
Public comment can be submitted to Rose Trombetta.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, so anyone that wants to submit public comment on either end of this, you can do so through the office, through Rose, positives, negatives, pros, cons, and we'll read every comment as we have been doing. If you need to say something, you need to come up to the microphone, please.
Chairman, just pointed out 10 days is a Saturday, so can we review?
Let's go to the following Monday to give them that weekend. Pat's looking it up right now.
Monday, the 27th.
What date was that again?
Monday, the 27th? I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to get the date down.
The 3rd? April 1st.
Monday, April 1st?
Sunday, Saturday, April 1st.
Is that a Saturday?
It's a Saturday. That's
Pat-
Monday, April 1st.
That's a Saturday.
What am I looking at? 4-3.
I got Anthony here.
3rd, that's right.
Okay.
12-day period.
So look,
Monday
oh,
the
just hang in there for 2 minutes, please. In summary, we're gonna keep the public hearing open as far as written correspondence. We're gonna close the verbal part of it. And we're gonna keep it open, the written part open until April 3rd.
Hi, I'm Pam Manna once again. I have what may be a very bizarre request. I know there's a lot of talk here that the sound is acceptable and it's not excessive. I would request that somebody go up on the hill and shoot a few rounds, and that some members of this planning board come up to where I live and hear for yourself inside my house what I'm talking about, because I'm not exaggerating. And if you heard it for yourself, you'd be able to understand where I'm coming from.
Okay, thank you. Make a motion. Go ahead.
Good evening. Greg Elner, 20-plus year resident of the town of Carmel and also an equivalent time period member of Willowwood. A lot of things have been said. This is a very emotional, very polarizing issue. As you do your deliberations, I would just ask that you give as much credence as possible to our local town of Carmel residents and also to the factual data. Because it is so polarizing and so emotional, there definitely has been exaggeration. And I have utmost confidence that you guys are going to get to the bottom of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, now that we have a proper date, subject to the written comments being turned in, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Mr.
Make a
Chairman,
motion
I'll
to
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's the only one I ever saw you miss. I had to say something about it. It's the
It's the only one I ever saw you miss.